Welcome back to the Wrong Advice Podcast. I'm your host, John Picciuto, and I'm very excited to have my new friend, Sienna Browne, on the line with us today. Sienna, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing, John?
Oh, I'm so good. So happy to have you on the podcast today. Why don't you introduce yourself to the listeners?
Hey guys, my name's Sienna Browne, and I am a multidisciplinary artist and healer.
That's awesome. For the listeners who don't know, Sienna's other half, Mr. James Wolfe, was on the podcast about a month or two ago, and we had such a great time talking about life and art, and then I was like, we definitely got to get Sienna on the pod, and I'm super, super stoked to have you on today. So talk to me a little bit about your background, like where you grew up, where you're from, and kind of like what's your story?
All right. I grew up in Orange County, California, so I've been a beach baby pretty much my whole life. My mom homeschooled us starting when I was 5 years old, and I was homeschooled up through middle school. So growing up, I was really left to my own devices in creating my own inner world, and really learned how to be by myself and be with others, and really have fun developing my creativity and own resourcefulness. And that's where I really feel like I developed my identity really early on in terms of being a creative. And I grew up going to the beach a lot. I was a Orange County Beach lifeguard, Huntington Beach lifeguard for about 8 years.
Wow.
And so, yeah. So being at the beach, being in the ocean safety, that kind of a lifestyle it's really been the foundations of how I grew up.
That's
and I was a swimmer.
Oh, I swam too as a kid. Yeah. This is not
really?
This is not a line at all, but like literally my best stroke was the breaststroke, and it was just like a very funny thing as a kid because I played football and lacrosse and like all these like manly sports, and then I was a swimmer in the summer. But I used to love swimming. I actually just got rid of like all my old school swimming trophies from, my parents just moved. So I was like cleaning out all my old stuff. I was like, oh man, I remember that meet. I remember that swim meet. It was like, oh shit.
Oh!
It was like super nostalgic.
Yeah. Breaststroke is hard. I wasn't good at that one. I was more of a freestyler.
See, I could do breaststroke and freestyle. I couldn't do backstroke to save my life. And when I was like 6 or 7 years old, I almost drowned doing the butterfly. So it was like, yeah, no,
You almost drowned?
It's the funniest story because one of my football coaches ended up marrying the lifeguard who like jumped in to pull me out of the pool. But I was like super, super young. And they were like, oh, you only swam in one event, like you should just go do like this 50 butterfly. I was like, I've never swam butterfly. I'm 6, 7 years old. I'm like, I don't think I should do this. And I just was doing it. And then like halfway through, I think I just didn't pick my head up enough and just inhaled the entire pool.
Oh my God.
And then I didn't actually drown, but someone did jump in and pull me out. And that person ended up marrying one of my football coaches. It's very funny how life works like that. So
did you end up getting a standing ovation or anything at the wedding?
She did for sure. Yeah. Such a funny, like oddly small world. Yeah. But I used to love swimming as a kid. Do you think being homeschooled, kind of like that free time, that like, kind of creative mindset was like something that was able to be developed at like a much younger age?
Definitely. I had the freedom to explore everything I wanted to, from embroidery to making forts in the backyard to going out and going to the beach and just building sandcastles. I feel like creativity was not designated to one medium for me. I just became creative fundamentally, like in my bones. And I would wear rainbow shoes, and I wasn't around other kids, so I wouldn't know if they were cool or not. So I really developed a sense of self, I feel, or foundationally at peace with who I was from that viewpoint very early on.
That's pretty awesome. And so like at what grade did you go back to, like normal, regular elementary school or junior high or whatever it was?
I ended up going to junior high in 6th grade. And then public high school and on to college. So I kind of had the full spectrum. I started homeschooled, and then I went to a private middle school, and then public high school and public college. So socially, it was an interesting blooming process for me. I feel like I got the full spectrum of what it's like to live alone and what it's like to live in a sea of 700 people or 40,000 people every day in college.
That's pretty awesome. So you said you're a multidisciplinary artist now. That was a mouthful. What, well, like, when was it? So obviously you had like all this creative freedom as a child, and then like going through, the normal pattern of junior high, high school, college. Like, what was there any kind of moment in your childhood or adolescence that kind of stuck out at you when you were like, I wanted to continue being this creative spirit kind of in perpetuity?
It's kind of always been there for me. It has always been there for me. I have turned to art as my source of solace and my source of joy in myself since I was very young. When I was in high school and college, I thought that the way to do that would be to become an art teacher because that was more stable. You have a steady source of income. You're funded by the government. There's no surprises in terms of scheduling or money coming in or any of that. And it was really in college when I started getting decent commissions, and then also just was able to fully explore scale, like making 15-foot tall pieces or getting residencies and stuff like that. Yeah, when I started to gain headway with just seeing the possibilities of what art could be or what I could make versus just wanting to be creative every day. That's what really shifted for me when I saw that like what I can make could change the world.
That's fucking awesome. I mentioned when I had James on the line that it's not a regret, right? Because I had no control over it. But like one of the things that bums me out so much about my own creative journey is that it happened so not late in life. Like I'm only 35, but like later in life. I didn't have the bug, the itch to scratch at a young age. And I wish I had been taking pictures, since I was a child. And funny enough, I actually did. I uncovered so many like disposable camera rolls and pictures that I took as a kid, like on, class trips and things like that, which was funny because I might have been able to subconsciously realize it was something that I loved doing, but you just kind of get pushed off the path by sports, by school, by, extracurricular activities, like things that like, quote unquote are more important, right? Things that like all your friends are doing. Mm-hmm. So I got to go to baseball practice or football practice or whatever it might be. And one of the things that bums me out so much is like, I feel like I'm behind where I want to be in terms of the art that I'm making now. And to me, it sounds like it's something that you kind of knew and recognized at a super young age, which I'm incredibly jealous of. That being said, talk to me about like your creative process, because I have absolutely no understanding of art at all. I had an artist on my podcast a couple weeks ago, and I'm just very, very interested in learning about your creative process, like what inspires you to make something and like what is like, fundamentally that works into you creating a piece, whether it's, I'm going to say on a non-commissioned piece, something that you're just making for yourself, not someone who comes to you with a specific idea.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like I've been very blessed to have understood to understand how much creativity means to me from a young age and have that fostered. Because of that, I've realized that my artwork is really a reflection of my inner state. I've been painting my whole life, and looking back on the types of work I was doing, it was a reflection of my headspace and what I was going through and what was coming out of me and what I was healing from. The first time I really recognized that was in college. I was painting these paintings with food on people's heads, and I thought that they were super fun and super silly and all of that. And at the same time, I had an eating disorder. I was bulimic. And these paintings were super light and colorful and happy. And I thought that like people loved them, people thought they were really interesting. And I approached one of my professors to sign off on me renting out a gallery space. And he asked me what the work was about. And I hadn't told anyone that I had an eating disorder yet. I it was completely under wraps. No one had known for 10 years. And he said, like, I really like these paintings. They're really beautiful, but what do they mean? And I said, oh, they're just silly. They're fun. I think people will really like them. They're colorful. They're happy. You know, like food's always on your mind kind of a thing. And he said, formally, you're incredibly talented. So this work it's beautiful. It's a beautiful piece. These are beautiful pieces, but these don't have any content. If they had something to do with an eating disorder or bulimia or something about your internal struggles with food or something like that, then I could see it being more of an interesting exhibition for people to go and get something out of. But because these pieces don't really have any meaning, I'm not going to sign off on this for you. And my face just dropped because I realized that I was completely see-through, whether I wanted to be or not. Me as an artist, what I do is a direct reflection of like what I am going through or what I am processing about myself in any stage of my life. And from that point forward, I started making artwork more consciously and really looking at myself and seeing like, what am I experiencing right now? What would I like to learn from being connected to what is higher than me? And how can I use this as a way to better understand myself rather than like prove myself?
Wow. I find it incredibly interesting that you could be going through such like a struggle internally and then like externally creating like a light and airy kind of art. How does that like, it's like and it's the antithesis of like your internal struggle. Like I would imagine that the art would come out dark and moody and you know, less ethereal and light. I find that wildly interesting. Wow, that's crazy. So I guess your mindset doesn't necessarily fully factor into the art that you're creating, because it would appear to me like when you're going through a struggle for a 10-year period of like, you know, internal unrest, that would manifest itself in a non-direct correlation kind of. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's very interesting.
Yeah. Looking back on the sketches I was doing and the other pieces that I was making, what was coming out of me when I wasn't showing people was dark.
Okay.
But what I was presenting to the world, how I wanted to appear as this Orange County, Huntington Beach lifeguard,
got
blonde,
it all together,
tall, got it all together, 4.0 student, like happy-go-lucky, easy breezy girl that brings vegetables everywhere. Like that was me. That was like what I was presenting as. And yeah, having someone just flat out tell me what was or like speak truth like that and tell me what was happening to me, and realizing that I can't hide anymore. That's really what flipped for me. And that's when I really started embracing my shadow and embracing the beauty that can come from when you aren't scared of yourself and really diving into like what's screaming to come out of you.
Was that like a very freeing moment artistically?
It was as equally freeing as it was scary, because the very next piece I did was it was kind of a narrative about eating disorders. It was a multi-paneled piece that was oriented in kind of a clockwise direction, so you could look from scene to scene and see the process of someone going through like a late night binge. And I hadn't told any of my friends, none of the professors that were critiquing my work. I just put it on the wall. And I mean, when you are splayed open like that in front of everyone, like they know, like it's official that that's what you're going through or that's part of you. So I felt in that moment I had a big outwards identity shift.
I mean, I find that incredibly profound and incredibly powerful, especially because I don't have any relatable, experience of that. And I know that there is a fair number of men who experience anorexia and bulimia and the like kind of need to kind of fit into that cookie cutter mold. It's obviously much more prevalent amongst women. I had a good friend of mine growing up, probably we were friends from like 8, and we're still friends now, who had a very, very traumatic eating disorder probably sometime in college, and she almost died. And one of the things that struck me about it was, and you know, I know this is a terrible thing to say, like, she was an incredibly beautiful girl and she didn't need to feel that way. But she always felt like she wasn't good enough, and she never looked good enough. And comparison to all of her friends, and, you know, media, etc., she just never felt like she fit the mold of whatever. And that broke my heart. And it's like such a tragic thing, and something that I have no business being able to relate to, because I'm irrationally confident in the fact that I have a fat dad bod, and I've always felt that way. But more importantly, I think it speaks to like what she does now, like, as you know, she's like a therapist and she helps other people. So like has greatly informed her life. Being that it played such a, you know, considerable part in your creative outlet, do you think that you have grown exponentially as an artist from struggling with something for so long?
Oh, yeah. Definitely. I would not take it back. All of the pain and struggle that you go through when you're dealing with yourself on such an intimate level. I expanded so much into deeper love for myself, and I feel like now I have a way bigger capacity to understand and love people even when they're struggling. And it also is what really catapulted my spiritual journey, and seeing that I am more than just this body. I am more than just this little part of me, that we're all here for specific reasons to like walk each other home.
Oh, I love that. I'm stealing the fuck out of that. Holy shit. Oh my God.
That's not me.
I know. I had a feeling. I've got this thing I say a lot. I don't think of people as like damaged, right? I think of most human beings as crumpled up pieces of paper, and it starts at like a young age. You start like fucking things up and like doing shitty things to people, and you just start becoming like this crumpled mess of a ball. And like as I've gotten older, I've tried to be like extremely diligent and like kind of smoothing out those rough edges and kind of getting rid of some of the wrinkles in my past, because I feel like you grow so much as you get older, and it's not always as apparent at a young age about the things that you could be doing better in your life, being a better friend, brother, whatever it might be. And I think that it's just like one of those nice things. Man, that's an incredibly powerful sentiment that I just wrote down and I'm stealing.
Go for it.
Yeah, you've been doing art for an extremely long time, and I would like to kind of tie into the fact that like inherently having an eating disorder would, in my mind and my estimation, mean you lack some sort of confidence inside, like you're trying to fill a void or look a certain way because you don't necessarily feel adequate enough in some physical sense. But talk to me about confidence and or belief in yourself as an artist as it relates to kind of like the longevity of your career.
I would say it feels very much as above, so below. So to be completely real with you, like as an artist, you have to, if you love what you do, you have to be okay with whatever comes of it. Like I'm shooting for the stars and I want that for everyone else who's an artist, but you can't get scared if you don't see it happening. Like if you really love what you do, you're going to lean into it even more in those scary moments. That's really what I've noticed. And that's what has been so confirming for me as an artist, in seeing that when times get tough or when things get scary, I turn to this as my sense of solace. It's not just what I want to share with the world, or I want to be famous, I want to be in a gallery, I want to do feature films with James. It's also core to who I am as a human and how I relate to the divine, and how I communicate with the divine, and how I center myself, how I ground myself, how I learn about myself. it's my inner world.
I fucking love that. I didn't have that kind of perspective on my creative side until very recently, and I'm immensely jealous of people who like just like that feels like something that's clicked for you and has been like instilled in yourself for a while. I was talking with an artist friend of mine on the podcast, like I said a few weeks ago, and something that I get caught up in all the time is, the digital world, right? Instagram, followers, likes, etc. And she's a very, very commercially successful artist who's, worked with major corporations, sports teams, the whole nine yards. And she admitted to being just as caught up as, we all typically are on a digital, landscape in terms of, how many followers does she have and how many likes does something get? Do things like that factor into you when you push stuff out there in the world, or could you give less of a shit?
Before COVID, BC, it really did.
BC.
BC.
Oh, shit.
I had two separate Instagrams. I had one personal one where I shared about my lifeguard life and being in a sorority and, your typical existence life. And then I had my art account, and I had a lot of followers, and I had been growing it for a very long time. I was connecting with other people, and I was getting noticed. And it was equally as fulfilling as it was distracting for me as an artist, because I found myself getting more wrapped up in like taking a story of me painting than actually painting.
Ooh.
Or getting the right angle on the in progress piece rather than like just getting the piece done.
Ooh.
Like it became a source of a kind of a removal, and
taking you out of the headspace of
I just found myself trying to prove things to people, or like taking pictures of my painting and then like trying to find the perfect song to add to the story to put right next to it, or like freaking out if I misspelled something in a caption. So when COVID really started to pick up, when we were in all the lockdowns here in California and there were all the riots and things happening, I flat out just deleted both of them, because I was not having fun on the platforms to begin with, and I felt that anything I was sharing was just kind of bullshit or distraction, be it one way or the other. If I was saying something about something that was happening, then I was a hypocrite. If I wasn't saying something about what was happening, then I was a hypocrite. So I really went inward for a few months without having any social media platforms, and that was super regenerative for me. I felt like I really returned to why I was creating art in the first place without having to prove it to anyone.
Yeah, I think that's I have two reoccurring things that I say pretty much on a daily basis, that we live in the most exhausting time in the history of human history. It's just plain difficult and exhausting to be alive. And the second being that Instagram is great and online life is awesome, but it is a highlight reel. We don't actually show when we're in bed and can't get out because we're depressed, or, I lost a big job, or blah, blah. We don't share the shit moments, right? It's a highlight reel. I'm talking about a shoot that I did yesterday with an Instagram model, or a podcast guest that I have. I'm not talking about the negatives in life. And that's why I find it to be a double-edged sword, something you have to do in order to like have a public face and get, new clients and customers and stuff. But at the same time, it is not my whole, true self. And I think that's a pretty powerful ability that you have to, in the middle of the pandemic, when I was probably spending fucking hours of my day on my phone to click that delete button. I give you a lot of props for that, for sure. Talk to me about some of the self-development tools that you've used, whether it's over just the last year or just in general in life, things that like you do on a daily or weekly basis that kind of clears your mind, helps, your growth pattern, and kind of just has made you part of like who you are today.
Great question. I have a meditation practice, so I meditate pretty much every day, at least for 10 minutes. And that really feels to me now like mental hygiene. I feel like I function better throughout the day. Even if I meditate in the middle of the day as opposed to the morning, I don't really have a set time, but just returning to that space of inness for a few minutes or a few breaths is really important to me. I journal. I have this one line a day journal. And so each page has a spot for one line a day, and the whole journal is for 5 years.
Oh shit.
So I have yeah. So like there's a 2020, like let's say August 1st, 2020, 2021, 2022, all the way to 2025. And at first I was just doing it for fun, but I've been writing a line for 2 years now, and I love looking back on the day of the year before, or a few days of the year before, and seeing how far I've come just in that little bit of time.
Oh, I love that.
As it's remarkable. Like as an artist, it's so confirming to see. As someone who's gone through the pandemic and had your whole life flip upside down, it's so beautiful to see. Seeing how my relationships have changed, seeing how my headspace has changed, seeing all the self-development things I've done, like in terms of taking better care of my body, or just really, it's shown me that I can do it, and that I'm doing it, and that I will continue to, but I don't have to have everything figured out every moment, because when I look back, I can see that it was already there. I just couldn't see it because I was focusing on what was happening that day.
I love that. I want to say like a week or two ago. So I have for probably 10 years or so now kept a journal. I would love to say I do it every day, but there's plenty of times where like a week goes by or 2 weeks go by before I write anything. And I very recently picked up a few of them from, junior high school. Like it's something I've been doing for a while, and started reading some of the things that like I wrote, like, my junior year of college, or, in 2011, like after I lost the job that I was working. And it's very funny how like my quote unquote voice, like the person who I think I am on paper and in my head, has kind of been the same, but I think I lacked that clarity. Like I think I lacked the realization that I have always been the person I am today, but I just didn't have the time or the internal effort or the internal work done then to realize it. And I've for a while been a proponent for people keeping people keeping journals and writing. I think it's an incredibly powerful tool, something that I've super gotten into, even more, especially since the pandemic. I have such a hard time meditating. I have tried pretty much everything because I have one of those chaotic brains that never shuts the fuck up, and I'm up till 2:00 in the morning thinking, writing, journaling, doing a million things. And I think it's partly good and partly detrimental, obviously, to my sleep. What do you think makes like a good meditation, and what can I do that can kind of help me be a better meditator? Because I've tried a million things. I got the Apple Watch, it does the little breathing thing for you. I've tried Headspace. I've tried a million things, but I can't seem to disconnect my brain from my body and my breath and just like be still.
Oh, John, sounds like you're trying really, really hard.
I am trying. I want to be completely relaxed. It's impossible.
Yeah, I feel you. And it's different for me every day, too, just because you're going through different shit every day. Like every day there will be something new or new information that your body is integrating, new situations that happen right before you sit down to meditate, or different thoughts on your brain. For me, I either just focus on my breath, like focus on breathing in and breathing out and seeing those words in my head, like seeing breathe in and breathe out, and focusing on that for 10 to 15 minutes. Or I pull up on YouTube shamanic drumming for 15 minutes. And shamans out in indigenous cultures have used drums for a really long time, because when the drum beat is 4 beats per second. So when you're hearing that, it puts your brain into, I'm forgetting what frequency it puts your brain into, but it regulates all of your cells so that all your cells are vibrating at that rate at the same time. And you will feel, as you listen to it, as you let yourself breathe, you'll feel everything in your body melt and integrate into what feels like one unified field. And you just continue to focus on the space in between the beats, and eventually that's all you can focus on. Your brain kind of assimilates to that thinking mode, and it's very freeing once you realize that it's happened, that it's clicked into place, because you see how you can tame your mind, which is wild.
I got to give that a shot. Yeah. It's funny. So I had a photo shoot yesterday, and sometimes shoots are a couple hours, sometimes they're 20 minutes. And yesterday was one of those, like, I had very clear ADHD throughout the shoot. I was like, boom, we're going here, we're going here, we're going here, we're going here. And the girl's like, whoa, this is like super quick and amazing. She's like, how do you know what you want to do? I was like, I don't know. But it was like very chaotic. It was like a chaotic, ballet. Like it was like, that's how it felt like internally. But I would like to get to the point where when I'm doing these things that I love, I can be more present in the moment rather than thinking about the next thing. I want to be present in what I'm doing currently, and less so, okay, well, I did this, so now we're going to go here and we're going to do there. And then I just want to be a lot more cohesive in my approach towards my art. Speaking of, you obviously do a number of different disciplines, re-art. Is there a particular medium that you like in general, or that you prefer, whether it's painting or sculpture work or whatever it might be?
I would say that the language that feels the most comfortable to me is painting. Painting and drawing has been what I've been doing for my entire life. So I feel it's like speaking English but for my hand. Like it comes out fluidly. I feel like I can translate my feelings or emotions conducively and very directly. But what I found overall is that the idea itself determines the medium. So whatever the idea is, if you're dealing with, let's say, jealousy, something abstract like that, like you're dealing with an emotion, how that looks on a canvas as an abstract expressionist painting will look very different than it will look as a 15-foot welded sculpture. It'll be a different feeling. It'll be a different effect, especially as the viewer, because the viewer going up to a painting, you're having a very one-on-one experience. But when it's a sculpture and you're walking around the sculpture and it's in your space and you can feel the metal, you can feel the weldedness, you can feel the texture of the materials, you'll have a different experience than if you were staring at a painting.
That's pretty cool.
So yeah, that's what has been so incredibly fascinating for me, evolving over time as an artist, is seeing how different mediums do different things to the viewer and to different people.
That's cool. I mean, yeah, I don't have that like ability to kind of have that translation of like the thing I'm trying to do. Like I've had this conversation with James a lot about photography, because I look at his images and they elicit emotion in a way that nothing I've ever done, at least in my estimation, has felt that way. I've taken, it's that catch-22. I've taken some photos which I'm extremely proud of, and they feel powerful to me, and then they don't resonate. They get 2 likes on Instagram. But I've always said that like his work is just very evocative and very powerful, whether it's like a fucking nude woman or it's a wave crashing on the sea. There is an visceral kind of feeling to the things that he makes, and I've never felt like I could kind of translate that to my own work. But it's cool to hear that. Like I would imagine it's easier to do when you're physically kind of interacting with the medium as an artist does, which I find pretty cool. You did mention when you were kind of struggling with bulimia and your artwork kind of was anti to like what you were feeling inside. Do you have like a stronger connection now to like whether your internal light is bright or dim to the artwork that you're creating at like any given moment?
Definitely. Definitely. I don't know how it's going to come out, especially if I'm because I've seen that it's my channel now. So I'm going to it to try to understand something. So like an abstract emotion or a feeling, I'm using the canvas or using the structure or using the film as a way to explore that. So I'm not looking to the canvas and seeing, okay, I want to paint a bouquet and it's going to be beautiful and the background's going to be blue and the flowers are going to be pink and I know exactly what it's going to look like. I'm approaching it trying to discover something about myself. Every project.
That's awesome.
So, yeah. Yeah.
Talk to me about like support. So obviously you grew up in like what I would consider a somewhat non-conventional household. You know, homeschooling's not, I don't know how common it is, but it is obviously not as normal or standard as typical, you know, childhood growing up. So talk to me about like the support system that you have, like whether it's friends, family, significant others, etc., that kind of instilled in you the confidence to do the things you want to do and then like allowed you like the leeway to be successful in it.
My mother is the biggest proponent of that. She wanted me and my brother to have the best childhood we could have and wanted us to explore and love and fall in love with life. And she loved that I was an artist. She loved seeing those things come through me. So she really supported me in getting me the materials when I was really young and signing me up for classes and always pushing me or congratulating me and telling me that my work was good and saying that I was talented. Like I felt very supported. I heard the things and felt the things that I needed to feel from her to really allow myself to dive in. She's been my biggest support.
How closer in age are you and your brother?
3 years apart. He's 3 years younger than me.
Mm-hmm. And is he also creative?
He writes, and he loves working with his hands. Like he works on his car and stuff like that, but he's actually in the military.
Oh, cool.
He's in Texas. Yes.
Not the best state, but cool.
Yeah. He's having fun. But we are very opposites in that way. Like he's very intelligent and creative as a person, but in terms of lifestyle philosophy, we're in yin yang paths.
Yeah, that's interesting. Me and my brother, I have a twin sister and a younger brother, and me and my brother are extremely opposite in that he's like got like a very pragmatic approach to life, and I'm super unconventional and, you know, life is short. I want to be happy. I want to do the things that fill me up kind of way. And I think that's why we have such a great relationship, because he calls me on my bullshit and I kind of tell him to, you know, lighten up a little bit, and it's kind of perfect.
It is perfect.
That's pretty awesome though, because like I said, I came to my creative life very much later in life. And if it weren't for the support that I have from, you know, my family and my friends being like, yeah, you should do this and you should follow your passions and you should be creative and be happy, I would never have made the leap that I did. I would have been sitting in a cubicle for the rest of my life. 65 comes around and I'm going to blow my brains out because I wasted an entire life. And that's awesome.
Support is so important for artists, especially because you're really vulnerable in everything. Like this canvas is blank before you put something on it. So being told that you're relevant, being told that you mean something, being told that you have a light that the world needs to see. I really want to, in the future, be able to create environments and platforms for artists to feel confirmed and validated and work together and
I love that.
Seen.
Yeah, a good buddy of mine, the photographer Tyler James, aka First Hand Account, he really kind of introduced me to this concept of community building, and he's done it digitally and now kind of like taken that digital community building into real life, and he's starting to do like real work projects and real, film. He's working on films. I think, this is all via Instagram, so I'm just basing it off of what I see. But he's been able to take the relationships that he's formed online and built a community and been supportive for people who are doing creative things. And I think that it's such it's incredible. It's such an inspiring thing, especially because, he's a guy who's got 20-something thousand Instagram followers. And I know that doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, when someone who is successful in the thing that they're doing takes the time to like elevate other people, it's how you build community. It's how you find commonality amongst people, and I think it's the best thing that any creative can do, for sure. It's awesome. Talk to me about like creative ruts. I would imagine you don't wake up every day wanting to paint. I don't pick up my camera every day, and sometimes I'll go days without doing it. So talk to me about how you kind of overcome that kind of negative feeling that can inherently come from a creative pursuit.
I think it happens to everyone. And I've started to view it as a good thing, because you can't really paint every day, all day. There's always other things that need to get done, like organizing your brushes or doing sketches or social media planning or organizing the studio so that it's beautiful, so that you want to paint in the studio. So I have seen whenever my fundamental inspiration is not flowing to turn directly to the canvas, I don't see it as a bad thing. I see it as, okay, I'm going to take a step back and look at the rest of my life and see what needs to be in check, because obviously part of my subconscious knows that I need to kind of deal with something before I can come back and be fully present here.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's nice. I've always kind of looked at it like, if I do the thing every day, I'm going to eventually burn out from my passion for it. So I like to kind of detach from it. And then, like, for instance, yesterday I picked up my camera to do a shoot. And when I was done, it felt like wonderful. Like I was like, it's like a quote unquote high. Like I felt like, when you do the thing that you felt like you were put on this earth to do, it's like it lights your soul on fire. It makes you feel like you just did the thing that you were supposed to do. It's great. And that's not something that you have to do every single day. And it's nice to kind of be able to recognize that there are times where you can pause and say, okay, time to do the other things that I've been neglecting when I've been trying to just make the thing that I've, kind of been doing.
Yes, I totally agree.
What is the best piece of advice someone's ever given you?
That everything is always working out for me. Everything's
that doesn't
always
sound like
out.
Advice. That sounds like lucky. That sounds amazing.
Is it?
Yeah. I wish everything always worked out for me.
It's true though. Like even in the ruts, even in those tough times, you're building muscles on one layer of your existence or another. There's something going on that you have to figure out to get to the next step. Oh. And so even when things suck or it's not going how you planned or it's scary, you don't know where you're going, everything is always working out. And if you weren't in this position, you wouldn't be able to get to the next spot.
Oh, that I like. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It's like that scar tissue analogy. Like it makes you tougher, but it also is like now a part of you. So like you learn the lesson, even though it's like, don't look away or text while you're riding your bicycle kind of thing.
Exactly. It really frees you up to live just out of more joy that way too. When you're not hard on yourself for not being in the right place.
For sure. I've been very lucky in that I've made such dramatic internal leaps in the last 12 months or 18 months, whatever. This pandemic's felt like 10 years. But like the person that I am today is like the best version of myself. And I feel like tomorrow will be even a better version of myself. And that's like a super freeing feeling because it gives you the latitude to make risks, right? To be able to like calculate risks. I'm not going to jump out of a plane or anything, but like I can start a podcast. I can, pitch my photography to a brand or a magazine. It's like giving me the confidence to be able to do the things that I want to do. And it starts with like building up yourself for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Congratulations. That's amazing.
Thanks. Yeah. Like, I think they're like, you spend a lot of your time in your life kind of forecasting yourself 5 years out, right? Like you're in junior high, you're like, oh, in 2 years I'm going to get my license, and then 2 years I'm going to be 18 and 21 and then 25 and my first job and my second job and the new car and the new house and the big watch and the blah, blah, blah. And then when you like stop to sit around at like all the shit you've accumulated and you're like not doing anything that like makes you happy, you start to realize that like, your life is not an accumulation of things. It's people, it's, places, it's like experiences. It's not, what car I drive. It's not what sneakers I'm wearing. Although I do have a sneaker problem, but not the point.
So true. So true. And it allows you to really be present in every moment too, and love the people in front of you and love what you're doing.
Yeah. I have gotten extremely good at being present in life, just not meditating in the present moment in life. It's the one hurdle.
The same.
For sure. But in regards to that, like, I've constantly always been looking ahead, right? Like you're always on to the next thing, like high school, college, whatever, job, etc. Like, do you still look at yourself like, where am I going to be in 5 years, or have you kind of let that go?
Oh, totally. No. Every single day, I'm dreaming about all of the amazing things that I want to do. I want to be writing feature films. We're writing feature films right now, James and I. So we want to see people's reactions to our fucking amazing films. Like, I want to see people cry. I want to see people just be overstimulated by the beauty that they see in front of their faces when all of our work comes out and is finally seen.
I love that.
I want to build sustainable communities. I want to build sound resonant chapels for plant medicine ceremonies. I want to get huge commissions to do 20-foot tall glass sculptures. Like, there's so much I'm looking forward to.
Oh, wow. I love that. I kind of got away from that, right? Like, I've got small goals in mind. Like, I want to, I'm shooting my second concert in a couple weeks. Like, I want to, there are like these like mini goals I have, but like those are big dreams. Those are like monumental, life-changing kind of, that's awesome. What would you say is like your biggest dream?
My biggest dream right now is the horror film with James. Like, we're both writing the script for a film right now, and I cannot wait to see what happens with that. Film and photography are new to me. I've just really started dabbling with it the last few months in the time that I have met James, and I have seen how much potential there is, especially in the film realm, to get into people's subconscious and to create a beautiful narrative, and on how many different levels film encompasses art, like the music, the characters, the lighting, stitching all the scenes together, the transitions, the interactions between the characters, and putting something in the beginning of the film that is then revealed at the end. Like, I'm so excited to orchestrate a project of that monumental scale.
That's fucking awesome. I'm floored. That's amazing. How much do you think like that, and intimate relationship, that support system that you have, like directly linked to like this person that you love, gives you like that power, that strength, that confidence?
So much. We want to build a kingdom together. Like, we just want to take on the world together. To me, it feels like it's our bond is so special. It feels like we're both little kids together, and we've known each other for millions and millions of years at the same time. And that we're here now to like really get shit done and change, like just create beautiful things for people to see.
That's amazing.
So I'm so excited to do that.
That's awesome. I love that. Wow. That's very powerful. I'm very happy for you guys. I love James, so naturally I love that for you as well. That's awesome.
How could anyone not? He's pretty incredible.
He is incredible. I mean, we're like, I've only known him for a very short period of time, and I'm slightly older than him, but his like the way in which he views the world is inspiring, and his art, as a fellow photographer, inspires me. I'm constantly sending him shit that I sent. I'm like, what do you think this is good? Like, is this good? Is this good? I'm like, I just want to know what you think, because he's got an eye. He's got an ability to see the world in a lens that is non-standard, non-conforming. I don't know what the distinction I'm trying to say, but he's a great dude. I'm very happy to hear that.
Totally. It's been such a cool experience meeting someone at that level. Like, artistically, we expand so much just like in conversations and in planning things together. I love his brain, and we're just so well matched to really flourish.
Love that. Really love that. I've only recently gotten to the point in my life where I don't look at like the negatives that like have occurred in my past as like regrets. Like, I try to go through my present life with the benefit of like future hindsight. Like, I want to do the things that I'm going to do because I don't want to regret not doing them. Talk to me about how you either have mitigated, future Sienna regrets, or overcome, past regret, and kind of how that made you grow.
Along the same lines of having the best advice given to me being everything's always working out for me. Everything is always working out for me. So if there's something that I regret, like I don't really regret anything. I see how I just either didn't have the awareness at the time to understand what I was doing or what I was going through, or there was a bigger lesson for me to learn in that moment. I don't have any regrets for anything that I've done or everywhere I've been. I feel like we're all perpetual 2-year-olds. Like, we're not going to know all the time what to do, and we're all just trying to figure it out and doing the best we can. So I am an overthinker though. So I will be a little hard on myself or judge myself sometimes immediately after for whatever that reason is. But I don't like to cling to like I made a mistake there, because in that moment it wasn't a mistake. In that moment I thought I was doing the right thing.
I like that. Yeah, that's good. That's a very, very important like mental view. Like that ability will serve you very well. That's big. What's your biggest fear? What's like the one thing that you like are afraid of?
Being perpetually alone, not having any money, dying homeless on the street.
That's pretty fair.
But it would take so long to get to that point.
Yeah. Yeah. You'd have to really piss off your family.
Everything. You have to piss off everyone for that to happen.
Yeah, that'd be tough. Yeah. Well, I'm very confident that you won't have to deal with that. That's good to know.
Thank you. Me too. So I'll be fine.
Yeah, good. I like to kind of wrap up every podcast with kind of like a little rapid fire, little Q&A kind of session. Some are easy, some are heavy. You don't have to give me like the most in-depth question or answer. But my very first question is, what is your favorite book?
Favorite book? Gene Keys.
What's that?
Gene Keys is essentially a re-remembering process. So there are 64 gene keys, 64 chapters that are all based on the 64 archetypes of the I Ching. And it's kind of it's in the realm of spirituality, but it's a re-remembering. So each of the gene keys helps you understand the shadow consciousness to the gift to the enlightened state of whatever shadow that is. So for example, jealousy. Like, jealousy doesn't feel good in our systems, but it's actually teaching us something. So in this book, it explains what jealousy is on a fundamental level for humans, and what process and what you learn and how you can transmute that into becoming completely free and all loving. But each of the 64 keys has a different shadow. So self-doubt, vanity, jealousy, hate,
It's like the seven deadly
blame.
sins kind of.
Yeah, the 64 of them.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, but I read that almost every day. It's very freeing. Just remembering that, like, we're all here doing the best we can and loving. So,
This took a lot of work, but when I realized like everybody's just a person, they're just as fucked up as I am, and they all poop. Like when you start like realizing like everyone's just someone who had a mom and a dad and went through their own shit, like life gets a lot easier. Like when you realize like someone at a store yelling at someone, like they're just having a bad day. Like, people are just people. I think that's like an incredibly freeing kind of feeling. What's your favorite movie?
I would say Inception.
Oh, so good. Love that movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do too. I can't get enough of it. I feel like I learn or see something else every time I watch it. And dream states are fascinating to me.
Yeah, Christopher
So,
Nolan is a fucking genius. And I love Interstellar. I love all of his movies, but Interstellar is pretty dope too. I like that one. A
yeah,
lot.
he's incredible.
Yeah. He's wild. Crazy dude. What's your favorite food?
I don't have one.
Really?
Chocolate.
Chocolate. All right.
Chocolate.
There you go. That's good. I mean that is one for sure. What are you
Yeah.
most proud of?
Hmm. I think I'm most proud of my optimism,
I love that.
like my ability to bounce back and just show back up to the table and work with what I've got. I'm most proud of my optimism.
I really like that. In the vein of the best piece of advice you have ever been given, what is one piece of advice that you have for everyone listening to you on the podcast today?
Stop thinking. Stop thinking so hard and just move towards what attracts you, move towards what is easy, move towards what you can't stop thinking about or what your mind drifts to when you're daydreaming. You're just what makes you happy. Just stop thinking about the money, stop thinking about what it's going to turn into or what it's going to mean about you if you do it. Just move towards what lights you up.
I like that. What is one recommendation that you have for everyone listening today on something that you've recently consumed? Could be a book, a podcast, movie, a TV show, just something that you've seen, watched, listened to, or consumed lately that you think everyone should check out.
I think everyone should watch Mad Men.
Oh, yeah.
I know I'm a little behind on the game.
I've
with
never
that.
watched
I know
it.
a lot of people have already seen it. It's so good.
I've never
It's
watched
so
it.
good.
Yeah, that's funny.
You gotta watch it, John.
I know my
Incredible.
Jeez, what would my cousin's wife be? My cousin-in-law? Yeah, my cousin-in-law, Becky, has been trying to get me to watch Mad Men for a very long time. And I fucking love John Hamm. I don't know why I've never watched it. I think it's just like one of those things. It's so many seasons, so I've missed the boat. I'm like, oh, fuck, I've got like 90 hours to watch.
John, they're all juicy though. Like it gets better and better and better. I think I'm on season 6 right now, and I don't want it to end. And I don't finish TV shows.
All right. I'll give it a whirl. I have recently been watching Only Murders in the Building with Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Selena Gomez. It's on Hulu. I think everyone should watch it. It's just Martin Short and Steve Martin. I don't know. They've probably done, one movie for sure, The Three Amigos, but like they need to just work together in perpetuity. They're fucking hilarious. The show's got depth. It's funny. It's going to be interesting to see where it goes.
What is it called?
Only Murders in the Building. It's on Hulu.
Only Murders in the Building.
It's good. You'll like it. It's
I'll
got
check that out.
the John stamp of approval. Sienna, thank you so much for coming on the pod today. I had so much fun. It was such an absolute joy to have this conversation with you, and I'm extremely appreciative that you came on today and had this chat with me.
Thank you for inviting me, John. I had a great time. It was great talking to you. Super wholesome, and I really appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. Thank you so much. Take care.